News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Two cases. One, a principal from north central Texas outside of Waco who appears to have covered up, looked the other way, and did more. A lawsuit alleging that she did more than look the other way. She and administrators made it easier for this admitted and convicted rapist of two children, a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, to get away with the substitute teacher, longtime substitute teacher, to get away with the abuses, and harder for conscientious employees to intervene by eliminating supervision over him, permitting him to have unmonitored access to the girl behind locked doors, and retaliating against employees who photographed and reported this highly inappropriate conduct with the girl. They failed to properly investigate the teacher. They failed to report his conduct to the girl's parents, CPS, or law enforcement. Sue the pants out of her. She loses qualified immunity as well because the child's civil rights were violated. Gee, you think? Amen. She was given direct reports of inappropriate behavior from multiple school officials and failed to even ask the questions necessary to investigate the report. What does this tell you? You have to protect your children. You are your protector of the children, not the teacher. They might be doing something vile to your children, and not the pastor, because he might be doing something vile. And I want to say one more thing, because it's also about Robert Morris of South Lake Gateway Church, who just stepped down today officially. The girl was 12 years old. He said he had sexual relations with her. He claims no full-on intercourse. Doesn't matter. He did other stuff with her, and she was 12, and he was in his 20s, and it went on for 4 years. Reportedly, the abuse started on Christmas Day in 1982, continued for more than 4 years in Texas and Oklahoma. The father of the girl reportedly gave Morris an ultimatum back then: either step down from the church or the sheriff will get a phone call. Call was never made. Morris never faced charges, took a short hiatus, returned to the clergy after 2 years. All your life, sir, you've been covering this up or walking around it. And it's time to face the music. You resigned in shame. It's because you didn't own it fully, and you kept in the pulpit, which you knew was wrong your whole time, no matter how good of a church you built. And it's a sad day. I have many friends that are members of this great church, and it is what it is. He should have stepped down. That's good. His son has taken over. His son, I assume the son's as clean as a whistle, good. But you can't have this in your life and continue to preach. I mean, it's it. It's over. The statute of limitations on child abuse apparently ran out, unfortunately, because it's 18 years, but actually the age of her, I kind of didn't fully grasp that until just a second ago. Then you got the principal, who I shared with, despite the reports and photographs of the child straddling him under a blanket, of all these other things, grooming and sick things, having her sit on his lap, buying her clothes, having her in a deep relationship. The 5 and 4-year-olds, it took a criminal investigation by law enforcement and another student suffering the sexual abuse suffered by the 5-year-old daughter, the lack of execution from the principal as a principal in an elementary school whose job it is to ensure education and safety and health of students, shocks the conscience, says that judge. All right, let's go to your call. The question on this is, do you think this principal should be criminally charged for a parent refusal to report this to the cops, to notify the parents, and to protect the student? And do you think this pastor who sexually abused a 12-year-old for years, 40 years ago, should face criminal charges if they're possible, even after he admitted to it and was disciplined by his church when it happened in the 80s? Yes, criminal charges, if they're possible, should be done. It looks like maybe that's not going to happen, but shame on him. But the world knows now, and he has ruined his reputation, and he has really hurt by sticking on this job for all these years and getting away with it without us finding out. He has hurt his church's reputation and Christianity's reputation in some people's minds. And that's the worst thing out of all of it. Josh and Grapevine, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Yeah, so on the teacher and the principal, I'm just going to be honest, the teacher should be castrated and serve life in prison. And I wouldn't even be above the death penalty on that, to be quite honest with you, for such a young child. The principal should easily serve a decade in prison for her complicity.
Yes.
Because she clearly doesn't care about the children she's supposed to be protecting. She's clearly there for prestige, title, money, and she could obviously give a rat's you-know-what about the safety of the children, because to find something out that egregious, that far down the rabbit hole, it doesn't get any worse than that. outside of death, then yeah, that's no, absolutely not. So
yeah, I agree. That teacher, that principal, the principal named you can run but you can't hide. This principal at Lorena ISD, her last name is Jewel. Where is April Jewel? Lorena Primary School Principal April Jewel. She should be in an orange jumpsuit and in jail for 10 years or more. That's exactly where she belongs. She belongs in jail, and let the jail mates do what they feel like they want to do to her and that thing. It's hard for me to have any sympathy. I wouldn't have any sympathy at all. Go enjoy yourself and don't drop the soap. And you're going to be, whether or not you're attracted to same-sex people, you're going to have that happen to you no matter what you want. So you did it to yourself. It's just sick and it's wicked. And then it kind of reminds me of that illegal immigrant who, one of Joe's illegals who stands accused of and is arrested for raping the 13-year-old girl in New York City at the park. And when this hero guy that I played the audio of tackled the illegal and held him down and tied up his legs with a belt, and he was screaming "help, help" in Spanish, "ayúdame, ayúdame," and he said, "Well, that's what the 13-year-old yelled when you were raping her. So shut up and sit here while the cops come." So anyway, and what about Robert Morris, the pastor of the now disgraced former pastor of South Lakes Gateway Church? And I'm not ganging on him; it's just true. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this happened in Irving at church off of Shady Grove, and the dad was wrong. The dad should have called the police. I'm kind of disgusted with the dad.
Yes.
The elders covered this up. So this has always been reported as him having an affair, and it was always expressed in the terms to where the congregation was under the assumption that this was an adult woman. Wait a minute.
Were you a member? Are you a member of this church?
I have attended Gateway off and on for many years. My parents go to Gateway.
It's a great church.
I do not.
Yeah.
I go to a smaller Baptist church closer to my house.
Yeah.
But that being said, I have heard his sermons on this. He's used this with his crocodile tears.
And what does he say?
To sell this. Well, he's basically talked about his infidelity and how God brought him to his knees and all this. And I see this as wrong because he was caught. He did not repent. And then for the last 30
He says he did. He says he did, but he's made it look like he was with an adult woman, not a child.
It's been sold to the congregation. Everybody, I've talked to so many people in the last couple of days that have been going to that church for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
Everybody there, including myself, my parents, were all under the influence that he was with an adult woman, that it was a consensual affair. And I think, Chris, we can all agree that a consensual affair with a woman is very different from the sexual assault and grooming of a 12-year-old.
That's exactly what you cannot. What do they call? What they first bill it as, an affair?
Yes.
You cannot consent.
They said
consensual. Yeah, consensual. You cannot consent in this state or in any state that I'm aware of when you're 12 years old. That is rape. Yeah. That is child rape and grooming. And he can say he didn't insert himself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Fully or do any question. That doesn't matter. You raped a child. You raped a child. He was living in that house with him for 4 years, I guess.
And he was going on,
and he was married. Yes. And he was married, and he raped a girl in the house. There you go.
He also here's the thing. He was.
And let me pause again.
So he was about to.
Let me pause again. I want to make this clear. I'm angry. I'm angry about this situation, and I'm not dancing on the man's grave. But when you do this, I'm treating you just like I would somebody on the street, just like this principal. But it's even worse with his position. Go ahead, last but not least, go.
Right. So he was already about to retire, so he thought he was going to sail off into the sunset. I want to say this. I don't think that his son or his family should be there in leadership in that church at all. I think the entire family needs to be removed from this. I don't think it's appropriate. They would have never had those leadership positions because Robert Morris, if he had been properly exposed, would have never been allowed to be in church leadership anywhere.
Let me make a caveat. That's very interesting. My first reaction is not to disagree with you. However, if his son knew about it, his son may have never known the truth.
Sure.
Because if he lied about the truth to his congregation, why wouldn't he lie to his son? Why would you tell your son, hey, son, not only did I have an infidelity, which you hear about, but that was a 12-year-old kid?
I don't think the son knew. I'll be honest with you.
So then why would you punish the son? It's not the son's fault.
I'm not punishing the son because you can't get the stink of the Morris family out of the church when the son, the direct son,
he might have to go because of that, but it's not. I'm not going to blame the child unless you knew the son, the adult son, unless you knew he knew. And I don't know. I don't know about that. But
I will say this is my last comment. This is God's righteous judgment coming down on Robert Morris.
That's exactly right. You can hide and you can get away with it for a long time, but eventually you will not escape. I appreciate your great call, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got Rose who wants to chime in on this, but we'll wait. We'll take you out of the box next, Rose. And also, I need to get into this thing with Joe Biden, and he supposedly didn't freeze at all. The AP says they did a fact check. Not true. And the media and the Democrats all saying it's a cheap fake. It's somehow the Fox News and all these networks and all of us are superimposing Biden's head on somebody else's body that doesn't know what the hell's going on the stage next to former President Hussein Obama. All that coming up next. Chris Kroc Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Two terrible, horrifying cases. One, a principal in the Waco area who will not get qualified immunity and is being sued by the family of a little girl that was repeatedly sexually assaulted, raped by her teacher at 5 years of age. She was allowed to go under a blanket with him, lay on top of him, straddling him, allowed to sit on him in class, allowed to allowed to have him buy clothes, and she wore all of his clothes. And teachers were seeing this, taking pictures of it, reporting it to the police, not to the police like they should have, but to the principal. Principal hid it, did nothing, looked the other way, even made it easier for him to be around the child, isolated with doors locked and everything, so he could continue sexually abusing this child for a long period of time, and then on to another child, a 4-year-old. This sick, wicked woman allowing it needs to be in jail. Second of all, Robert Morris, the pastor of Gateway Church, and I'm not dancing on his grave, I'm not attacking him and jumping on pile here, but here's the deal. The man for 4 years sexually abused a 12-year-old girl until she was 16, and once the father found out, he said, either you leave the cloth here, whatever, the pastoral care, you quit your job, or I'm calling the cops. He stepped away for 2 years, admitted his sins, and repented and all that stuff. But what very few, if any, in the public knew, let alone his church knew for all these years, reportedly he was being told, one of our callers said he was being told, the church has been told over the years he had infidelity with a woman, not knowing it was a 12-year-old child, which is rape and sexual assault. They can't consent. So he can't be a member, and he shouldn't have been a member of the pastoral team forever since it happened. And yes, he should be criminally charged. I believe the statute of limitations is passed, but he should have been criminally charged for this. You don't get a pass. You are held to even higher standard, and so he's got a lot of answering to do to his maker. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. We have 3 lines open. Chime in right now. Do you think the principal should be criminally charged for a parent refusal to report this to the police, notifying the parents, and protecting the actual student? And do you think a pastor who sexually abused a 12-year-old for 4 years, 40 years ago, should face criminal charges if possible, even after he admitted to it and was, quote, disciplined by his church when it happened in the 80s? Let's go to Rose in Arlington. You're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hi, Rose.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. First of all, in the case of Robert Morris, when my son lived in Texas, he was a member of Gateway, and I visited there a few times and loved hearing Robert Morris's sermons. Knew nothing about any of this.
Right.
But so, I appreciate the fact that he was disciplined by his church, but he still broke the law. and he still needs to be held accountable to the law. He's not above the law, the legal process.
Correct. And he shouldn't be a pastor either at any church after that, right?
No. In the principal situation, how is she not an accomplice to a crime?
Yeah, exactly. It's my understanding of Texas law is, by law, if you're in a position of a teacher or authority in a school or a doctor or certain things, if you hear about something, you by law have to report it, and she didn't.
You are required.
Right.
My other son is a teacher, and if you see something, he has had to report things, and he says, if I don't, it comes back on me. But also, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not judging the girl's parents of Robert Morris, the situation, but in any case, how is a parent? How do you not call the police?
I'm going to judge not the parents, but I'm going to judge their actions, and their actions were wrong. I find them guilty of covering up a child molester.
Exactly. I can't understand that.
I mean, we have to be direct. You're a child molester if you do that to a 12-year-old girl for 4 years. You are a serial child molester. Oh, that's serial, but you're a child molester. Not a one-time only. You're a multiple 4-year-long child molester with your wife while you're married and in a position of pastoral care. Yeah.
Yeah, they should be charged on each count.
Yeah. I agree.
Every single time it happened.
I agree. I agree, Rose. Thank you. We must protect children. And Al in Carrollton, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. We have an hour, a minute with you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chris, I'll be quick. The principal, jail time. As that person just said, the lady just said, they are required. I work with children. You are required, required to report it to the police. The pastor should be gelded and put over a bed of fire ants. His son, as we told Ferdinand Marcos, you need to cut cleanly. No family. The whole family needs to go. Even though they aren't guilty, they need to go. They need to be clean. And the father and any of the ministers that this was reported to that did not report it to the police, they should criminally charged.
Yeah, the father had a responsibility to share with the cops to prevent other girls from being raped or molested by Robert Morris, and that's on him. He never should have quietly done anything about it, and shame on him for not doing that. It's not his decision. I don't care if it was his daughter. It is not his decision to report this to the cops because I want my daughter protected. And this man, the father, has in my opinion, I will judge his actions, and he was severely wrong for not reporting this Robert Morris to the police. Unequivocally wrong. It's child molestation. Appreciate your call. We have Eddie in Dallas coming up next, plus your call at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 on the Chris Crock Show, talking about, of course, the principal from North Central Texas near Waco, covering up a child rapist, and Pastor Robert Morris at Gateway resigning today after it's found out that the sexual relations he had was with a 12-year-old for 4 years in the 80s. All that next. Then we're going to get into Joe Biden. Is it a cheap fake, or did he really freeze? The media and the Democrats say he doesn't freeze. It's all fake. Next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. Okay, we have a principal in North Central Texas, in Waco area, who covered up and made it possible for a convicted child rapist to rape a substitute teacher, longtime substitute teacher at a school, to rape a 5-year-old girl and then eventually a 4-year-old girl in his class. And there were so many red flags, so many disgusting things. Teachers were seeing him have the victim lay on top of him under a blanket and straddle him when it was nap time. And buying her all these clothes and having her wear the clothes, having her sit on his lap. And so he was convicted of sexually abusing her, and then another 4-year-old girl in that class. It's unthinkable, and the principal covered it up. The other part of this leg of this is that fits together in this as well is Robert Morris, former pastor at Gateway Church in Southlake, and what a wonderful church, and what a sad thing to happen. He has admitted to. And the woman who's been telling the story for years said she finally got picked up. She goes, finally it got picked up, and she talked to WFA TV Channel 8. In fact, I think I have her interview here. Here we go.
The story is gut-wrenching when I read it on paper, and I've been sharing for years. So it just happens to be God's time, I think, for it to come to light. He didn't come forward and confess. He was turned in. And when someone's turned in, what are they sorry for? Are they sorry because they got caught, or are they truly repentant of what they did?
I'm proud of her for coming forward. She has her face, her name on there. She's not hiding who she is. I believe she's a realtor in Oklahoma City, and I wish her nothing but blessings and wellness and health, and I'm proud of her for coming forward. And I think Robert Morris should have gone to jail for what he did, and it was never reported to the police, and it should have been. And I say shame on the father of the girl, and I say shame on the father of the victim, the lady you just heard from, and I say shame on the church for not reporting it back in the 80s. 4-year sexual relationship he had with her from age 12 to 16, and he was in his 20s. That there's nothing consensual about that. That was a lie, apparently, that he was saying, and it was not an adult. It was a child who cannot consent. It was child molestation. There's no question about that. I don't care that he was in his 20s, young 20s. It does not matter. It's child molestation. All right, so let's go to your call on that. The questions are, do you think this principal should be criminally charged for a parent refusal to report this to police, notify the parents, and protect the student? And do you think the pastor who sexually abused a 12-year-old girl for 40 years ago, should face criminal charges, even after he admitted to it and was, quote, disciplined by his church when it happened in the 80s? Yes, he should still be prosecuted. Unfortunately, it appears the statute of limitations is expired, but he should be if he could be. And he should never have been a pastor after that. Eddie in Dallas, you're on 8. By the way, our number is 800-288-WBAP for you to chime in right now. 800-288-9227. Eddie in Dallas, you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Eddie.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. Let's just start off by saying that there is nothing sacred anymore in life, okay? Take away sacred from society, from humanity. The principal should be charged because she is an accessory. Being an accessory, knowing that if that student is under her care, for her safety, her well-being, her advancement in life, she is definitely liable in that. The pastor, they should waive the
statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations for him, bring him in and bring him down. But now let's look into the bigger problem, guys. The bigger problem is the people who are showing these people what to do in life. The people who are influencing the most is the Catholic Church. Okay, they are the biggest perpetrators of a sexual assault, of molestation, of rape, of young children and boys through the millennia. And they have covered up, and they've been accessory to the most heinous, horrific crimes against children in humanity. And why is the Catholic Church still open then?
Hey, you seem to have an extra amount of passion for somebody. Were you involved in any of these issues with the church, the Catholic Church? I
was not. I'm looking at the hypocrisy and the absolute evil of the human being. There is no godly man anymore. Okay, and we can't tell who's godly.
Well,
you know why?
There are, and I know many of them, but you know,
who knows? We don't know what's going on behind anybody's closed doors except our own.
You can't let. Yes, that's true ultimately, but you can't let certain people bastardize your view of others, and that's a difficult thing. Well, this is the kind. Here we go, Eddie. What everybody's hearing right now. This is the kind of confusion and anger, legitimate anger and legitimate confusion that causes people when people in these positions do these kinds of things. So
there's no confusion. First of all, the human being is flawed.
Yes,
and these people have a genetic, I believe, a genetic flaw.
I do too.
Something's going to come out outright for them to want to be with children, for them to not even realize that there could be any consequences or accountability.
No. They know there's a consequences and accountability, which is why they hide it.
I know, but they hide it because of that human flaw.
No. They hide it because they know it's wrong. And they don't want to get caught. Yes, they know it's
wrong, but they can't help themselves. That's the problem.
Right.
And the reason they can't help themselves is because something went awry at first. Something happened along the way. Now, put that aside. If somebody molested your child in the bathroom of a restaurant, let's say Cheesecake Factory, and all of a sudden they got wind, the public got wind and the news got wind, what's going to happen in that Cheesecake Factory? They're going to close that mother-father down. They're going to close that place down.
I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would.
Why is the Catholic Church still open?
That's a question I can't answer. I have a lot of problems with it. I was raised Catholic. I have a lot of problems with it. I'm no longer a Catholic, but I have a lot. Here's the problem with that. I got to roll. But here's the problem with that. When you let man, a centralized location, in this case, the Pope in Rome, when you let a centralized location be in charge of and have the authority over every single person in a sea of people that are members of that church, that's corrupt power from human beings, and that is wrong. And that is why a decentralized structure, for example, that I have been in my churches over the years, Baptist, not non-denominational, is a much better system because you ain't beholden to anybody but inside of that church. And that's where people can have accountability, hopefully, and all that stuff. The centralized power for the world out of that location causes such corruption, in my humble opinion. Last but not least,
one more thing.
Yes, quickly.
Okay. The Catholic Church as a whole and all their properties and all their holdings should be shut down, shut out, closed for good, and prosecuted across the board and turned into havens and sanctuaries for arts and entertainment and for technology
all right,
and
Eddie.
for understanding.
I got you. Thank you for your call. I don't agree with that, but thank you for your call. Now, I want to get into Joe Biden's condition, the freezing. And I have a couple doctors in a Daily Mail piece saying what they believe is behind these freezing episodes, and it's not good for Joe. And I believe it's quite possible that what they're thinking is going on with his freezing stuff is happening. But then there's the view is accurate. But then there's the view from the Democrats and the media today that just came out and said it's fake. It's all fake. What you're seeing is not real. He did not freeze up for in front of the Juneteenth celebrations when he was the only one just not moving. He did not freeze up on the stage with former President Barack Hussein Obama the other night at a fundraiser in Hollywood when he was the only one that froze up on that stage and nobody else was sitting there staring. He was not frozen up. So nobody was frozen during the Juneteenth except for him. Nobody was frozen during the fundraiser in L.A. with former President Hussein Obama was frozen except for him. And nobody was frozen up and looking the other way at the G7 when the paratroopers came down other than Joe Biden. But even though he's the only one frozen and nobody else is acting like him, the whole crowd of anything, right? It's fake. And you will hear the media say that over and over again on a kind of a montage clip of them today. It is all fake. It's a cheap fake, and there's so much on that. And I'll be asking you some questions on this. Do you think Biden froze and needed help getting off the stage and had a similar episode at Juneteenth celebrations in the G7? Or do you agree it's a cheap fake? And do you think Biden has Parkinson's disease or something else based on the freezing? Or do you think he's just fine for an 81-year-old, sprite, ready to kick butt and take names for 4 more years? Being 86 when he leaves office, no problem. All that's next. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Are they cheap fakes? Well, let's hear what the media says.
There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office.
The Republican accounts circulating many of the clips responded, claiming the videos are unedited and promised to keep posting them.
A lie.
I want to talk about the Joe Biden that Republicans want you to see and the pipeline of videos that aren't telling the full truth.
We've been worried for years about AI deep fakes. Cheap fakes are a little bit simpler. They're cheap. They're just distorted, out of context videos.
These are cheap fakes, what the White House and Biden people call them. I think we need to all be a little careful about what it is that we put out there.
And here's KJP. Grr, she's angry.
I think you're right. I think there is so much misinformation, disinformation, as we've been talking about. You talked about the video of the president wandering, and it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering. He was talking to a parachuter that was right in front of him. And what you saw is the Republican Party really manipulating what was being said and what was being seen by the American people. It's also very insulting to the folks the viewers who are watching it. And so we believe we have to call that out. We've been calling it cheap fakes. That is something that came directly from the media outlets, and calling it that. The fact checkers.
Wait, the media outlet said it came from her. Now she's saying that it came from the media outlet. That's what they do with intelligence ops when they said it was Russian disinformation. They make it up, then they point to it and say, look, it was reported in the media, even though they were the ones who gave it to the media.
Calling it that. And so we're certainly going to be really clear about that as well.
Jon Stewart told the truth about it.
There is plenty of fodder for the attacks. For instance, for President Biden, it is his habit of seemingly staring at what can only be considered ghosts or out-of-frame paratroopers, and then when he's pulled back into frame, somehow giving the impression someone has just quantum leaped into his body. Is that? No, don't look directly at the sun, sir. That would...
Okay. Well, what do you think? KJP says right-wingers who are sharing these videos have a credibility problem. Fact-checkers repeatedly have said it's misinformation, disinformation, she says. They're cheap fakes and misinformations. Are they? Do you think these pieces of video you're seeing of the president are cheap fakes that are somehow made up? Is this AI? Actually, AI is a deep fake. For example, the president's face and body froze at a fundraiser in L.A. the other day, staring blankly, stopped moving. He was the only one staring blankly and sitting there frozen. But maybe it's just fake, though. At Juneteenth celebration, everybody was dancing and moving. He was the only one frozen until St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, his brother, put his arm around him and said, hey, you know. And Joe was also staring blankly ahead as Kamala was dancing next to him in that event where he slurred his word. And the G7, he was the only one wandering off and looking the other way when everybody else was getting ready for a picture. So he's the only one in all three of those situations, but yet it's a cheap fake. And look at the AP fact checking. This is great. Hey, I'll ask you the question right now for you to chime in right now. Do you think Biden froze and needed help getting off the stage and had similar episode at Juneteenth celebrations in the G7? Do you think President Biden has Parkinson's disease, as doctors are saying that this is what it looks like today in the Daily Mail? Or do you think he's just fine for an 81-year-old? Keep trucking, dude. You're great. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Here is what the AP says. They have a fact check of this. It's not true. He's not freezing. They've got the truth. It's right here. Here's the facts. Right here. I printed it out. AP. There was nothing noteworthy about this moment. Obama wanted to be chummy by walking off stage with Biden, the AP explains. In their fact check, they say the claim Biden froze on stage during the fundraiser in L.A. Saturday night had to be led away by Obama. The facts! The Associated Press has the facts right here. The facts. Biden paused amid cheers and applause as he exited the stage with his predecessor following an interview moderated by late night host Jimmy Kimmel. There's nothing here to see. He's fine. Even though a Quinnipiac poll in February said 67% voters believe Biden is too old to serve a second term. That was in February. 67%. Too old. Nope. It's not real. It's not happening. My buddy Eric Erickson writing, for anyone who has a relative with dementia, as I do, my wife's dad, they know exactly what Obama was doing. For anyone who has taken a frail grandparent to dinner, you know exactly what Obama was doing. These are not nonpartisan attacks. These are not partisan attacks. They're objective observation of reality of millions of Americans personally experiencing in some way. Is this going to be the next thing somebody said today? They're going to start banning videos of Joe Biden freezing on social media, say it's fake? Oh, I wouldn't put it over them, except on Twitter. Doctors saying that the bizarre freezing episodes could be Parkinson's. President's face and body freezing and all these different things I mentioned. Okay. LA-based doctor says frozen, masked faces, diminished arm swing, less frequent blinking are likely due to central neurological disorder like Parkinson's. Another doctor, a neurologist who's invented the gold standard cognitive test, previously told the Daily Mail slurred speech is seen in Parkinson's, which affects levels of brain hormones that are involved in movement. More than 90,000 people in the U.S. diagnosed with it every year, most of whom are men over 60. Symptoms such as tremors are well known. Parkinson's disease can also cause stiffness and problems with moving the limbs and face, as well as slurred speech. That's exactly what we're seeing from him. It's also known to cause cognitive impairment affecting memory, concentration, even mood. That's exactly what the man's doing. Parkinson's can only lead to thinking difficulties, cognitive problems, as well as depression and anxiety. Confusing names and dates is concerning in terms that that's not supposed to happen with normal aging. A cognitive test is very important. We're long overdue for this investigation, said an internal medicine doctor in New York. No one likes to admit or recognize the passage of time, whether it's me or the president of the U.S., but in certain cases you have to. There you go. All right, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, I want to get to this. We have a couple of things. We have at 10 as promised the no taxes on tips, says Trump. Did you hear about that? No taxes on tips anymore in the service industry. Do you think it's a good policy? Do you think most people would support this idea? I'll tell you what I've been saying to people that I bump into out in the streets that are in service industries.